Hi everyone, this is Sue with Ully Cat's Designs and Ully Cat's World blog. And today I've got a trifold card using Scrappy Tails trifold base. The trifold base and such come as two separate pieces. You get the two side wings with folds. You get this smaller decorator die that's useful, and then there's the drop down platform that you can have things popping up on. This little strip and then these trapezoid pieces are what make the drop down pop-up parts. And today I'm also going to be adding their new Halloween trifold window add-on. It has this cool sort of viney tree-like piece that will cut into the side panels as well as a window. I have gone ahead and cut out my various pieces. I'm going to start by gluing my pop-up pieces in place. And then these strips fold into kind of like a C or a U piece. So the back pieces are basically this piece with the side flap cut off, and I have covered the back with some double-sided, and I'm not going to take the whole thing off, but that's how we're going to attach that part. Now all of that will hold up. I've cut a second backing piece that we'll use once we've got all the sides attached, just to cover up any unsightly things. So this is the side piece that I'm going to use, and I've cut a piece of acetate to go in between the panels, and I use the Insider decorator die, so you can see that's a little bit smaller. After numerous attempts to weed all of the pieces out of the black and the silver with the double-sided tape on the back, I was able to salvage the silver piece, but I ended up with sticky adhesive on much of my die, so I eventually cut out this black backing piece without any adhesive on the back. But the silver piece on the kind of the frame edges, once I put the piece of acetate on it, there was sticky edges all the way around, which is how this black backing piece is adhered, so that it won't stick on anything else in the card. I'm just kind of rubbing some anti-static powder around the edge. Once I was certain that I wasn't having any sticky issues with the acetate, I have glued the flap onto the back panel, and again with this double-sided adhesive on the back of it, that helps secure things. And the way I folded the wing is I basically made it so that there was a gusset like that, so that as it closes up, if it needs, it can squish down, but it will also help protect that drop-down panel. So for the other side, I have cut two panels. One I've taken off the wings, but both of them I have backed with double-sided adhesive sheets. And here is our back piece of acetate. So I'm going to just peel back a little portion of it. And that worked beautifully. So now for our next piece. This piece of I had put on in two separate strips. And there's our other side door, all cleaned up and with its acetate in. Now I could have just glued that on. So now we have our card base all ready. So I cut another piece, which I estimated a little bit short because it's crooked, but you can see I used this side backing piece, and then I've just cut off the wing part. So I'm going to glue that on and then I'll trim it off. To decorate my trifold card, I'm using the new Ghost Gallery, Ghost Study, and Spooky Fireplace die sets, all from Scrappy Tails. And what I like is on the back of each of the die sets, there is a picture that kind of shows you how things go together. So you can kind of figure out, like these 3 teeny tiny little dots are actually the flames for the candles. From the Ghostly Study set, I use the chair and the ghost. And from the Ghostly Gallery, I use this large frame and the ghost, and then the grandfather clock, and all of the different parts that go to the grandfather clock. So as you can see, I've got the grandfather clock, the chair and the ghost, and the fireplace installed. Now I do want to say that on the back of the chair and the grandfather clock, I did cut another, what I call the main section, out of black cardstock, and I glued that to the back of the piece while I had glued the decorated piece to the front. And they're just glued onto those pop-up bars. The fireplace, you can see I took 2 strips of black to glue that on. I actually raised it up maybe about 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch. Now I've also taken another scrap of black and I folded it to be the width of those little C pop-up pieces. I only cut it wider so that, because it was going to need more strength, because there does need to be something that pulls that fireplace to the back. And the way we're going to install that piece is I'm going to put glue on that piece. I'm going to lay that flat, and then we're going to close that up, and it should find the place where it needs to go so that it will pull that up. And from looking down, all you can see is black, so that kind of is the idea. But you can see I've got it there. So I'm going to let that dry, but in the meantime, I'll show you the ghost portrait. I've actually cut 3 layers of the frame piece. Now it cuts out the solid part in the background too, so I've cut 2 of black and 1 of the gold. Now the top 2 layers, the gold and 1 of the blacks, I actually trimmed out the piece that is like the painting or the picture. And I have glued the gold one onto the back of this. Mostly I wanted to give it a little bit of depth. I took a white gel pen around that one edge. By doing that in layers, it will just make the frame pop up a little bit off of the base. And by gluing just that gold backing piece on and not the frame, that will also make the frame stand out. For my final decorations, I use the Home Sweet Haunted Home sentiment from the Ghostly Study. I use some of these pumpkins from the Halloween Trifold Window add-on. And then I used the Happy Halloween from a Colorado craft company stamp set that I had. And here's our finished card. So you can see a little jack-o'-lantern there, another one outside here. And you start to get to see the sentiment, Home Sweet Haunted Home. And then on the back, we have Happy Halloween and lots of space to write a personal message. I hope you enjoyed this video and that you got some inspiration from it. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.